What's up guys, I'm Skillionaire, this is my face. A while back I made a video about settings and hotkeys, 7 that you don't want to miss. This time around I want to make one about 7 gameplay mechanics that you don't want to miss, because these are the 7 gameplay mechanics that I would say had quite a big difference to my gameplay. Just small things that you wouldn't know about. I'm not going to talk about obvious ones, RTS mechanics, such as, like micro and macro and this kind of stuff. What I'm going to talk about is sort of Age of Empires 4 did you knows almost. So let's start by talking about farms. One of the things, did you know that when you guys do your farms around either your mill or your town center, it might look something like this, yeah? They go on a nice long walk all the way around because you shift queued it, right? And it's quite inefficient. You're wasting a lot of time here. And if a worker's gather rate is about 40, so I hear from streamers and pros, about 40 resources per minute. That's a lot of time wasted over, if you keep doing this throughout the game, that's quite a lot and you fall behind. And in RTS, small edges can make a big difference. It's about an accumulation of mistakes, right? Whoever makes more mistakes ultimately loses the game. So let's see if there's another way we can do this. Let's do it. Let's come here with a mill and let's throw it anywhere there's space up here in Scotland on this map. And I'm going to do this. Oh, I fucked it because I put it by the shore. But still, it will still work. Watch this. Then you right-click the building and watch what happens this time. There's a significant difference, as you'll see play out now. So they go to make the farms. And watch, one of them stops and starts collecting immediately. Of course, this is a terrible placement. This should go around. But you see my point I'm trying to make. The reason for this is that there are automatic things that villagers default to, units in this game default to. And one of them is that when they've finished making a building, for example, they move on to the next nearby building, stuff like that. And the other one is when they finish making a resource building, like a mill or a lumber camp or something like that, they immediately start collecting. But if you've shift queued, you've overwritten the automatic priority order with what you've told them to do. So by clicking on it again, let's just show it one more time, just by clicking on it again, like that, after you've shift queued, you then right click, and you see how the blue lines disappeared around the farms. You've now told them to just basically go back to automatic default priority order. And that's my number one tip on this list of 7 of things that can make a difference. The next thing I want to show you is, so you can see these workers all have a few resources by now, right? Or some of them do. This one does, this one does. Have a look at the amount of food that I've got in the bottom left corner, 1979. Let's remember that. We've got 1979. If you want to move your workers to something else, which, by the way, given the whole 40 resources per minute thing without any upgrades, that could end up... You don't always want to be doing that. But let's say you do need to do that. Maybe you want to age up really quickly. You want to move to gold. You might shift queue. You might go like this. You might click your mill and then shift click the building you want to make. Because this is what happens in other RTS games. I'm here to tell you, you don't need to do that. This was quite a shock to me. Even though they're already holding food, watch what happens when they finish this mine. The food is not wasted. Keep an eye on the 1979, yeah? Down here on the bottom left corner, 1979. Watch this. They deposit the food into the mill. I did not know they could do that. That was huge for me. Just to be clear, they won't always be able to do this. So for example, if I take the gold, I can't click the mill to deposit. It's only upon completion. Okay, so it's only the first time. So right now they're all holding a bit of gold, right? Let's show it one more time by building a lumber camp. Oops, fumbling my hotkeys there. Building a lumber camp. Notice I didn't tell them to deposit at the mill, right? The mine, sorry. So now when they finish the mill, watch my gold, it's on 1000. They deposit 1070. This is going to save you time throughout the game. This is my number 2 tip out of 7. Make sure you're doing this. Okay, number 3. Food priority sort of exists in this game, or gather rates, I should say. Gather rates are different depending on the food source. So fish is the ultimate one. You don't have to memorize them, but just think of it loosely as this. I can tell you them properly, but you can just think of it roughly, yeah? Fish gather rates are the fastest. I believe it's 1 per second. So if there's ever fish around the map, it might be worth, it's up to you. You're the strategist. You can decide. But it's up to you to go forwards, build a mill, and then start collecting fish, because shoreline fish, 1 per second, is quite damn high. The second highest is boar, the third highest is deer, so you can just think about it as animals on the map, it's easy to remember. And then sheep and farms are equal. So the rate at which you collect the food is slower than when you were collecting the fish. It's just something to bear in mind because it makes a big difference. And that's why farms aren't very efficient, unless you're playing English, of course, because that's their whole civ dynamic. But for many other civs, farms are not great because you'll collect food faster if you're going to deer and such like that. So you got to put yourself in dangerous environments to have higher food gather rates. And of course, food is super important in this game because that's how you make any of your troops. So just remember that. So one more time, that goes fish, animals on the map, deer and bull, farms and sheep, exactly the same, and then finally berries. Berries are the lowest. Of course, different civs, different mechanics, right? The Muslim civs gather higher gather rates on the berries, if I recall correctly. Something that they get berry bonus, basically. And one more little thing that you might not know about if you already knew that is actually the fishing ships from the dock. They have different gather rates for different kinds of fish. So deep water fish has a higher gather rate than shoreline fish. I think it's like 0.9 and 0.75, something like that. You don't have to remember the numbers, just remember the general rules. And it makes a difference to your gameplay. Of course, think about it in terms of practical terms as well, right? Just because the deep water fish is generating you more food, but if the shoreline fish is closer to your dock, remember the travel time. You always got to take travel time into account. So there you go. Something for you to consider. That is number 3, I believe. Number 3. I'm going to do number 4 and number 5 in one go. So number 4 is the thing I told you about the villagers' gather rates. I said it earlier in the video. I know I spoiled it. But basically, you don't want to be moving your villagers around too much. So if they're collecting wood, you're like, oh no, now I need food. You grab everyone from food, you move to wood. These seconds, they add up over time. And that's a lot of resources lost. So instead of moving them around like that, you just kind of want to like shift your next villagers to the next resources that you need. Is far more efficient. So yeah. Sorry, that one was a bit unstructured because I said it earlier in the video, but just because it made sense to bring it up there. The next one I'm going to show you, number 5, is something that I really did not know about. It's very simple, this one. And in a lot of games, I don't think you can actually do this. So I'm building my production building, right? And you probably know this if you know anything about RTS games, is that you can set rally points. Yeah, so you can rally points here, and what that means is, of course, just in case you don't know, is that when your unit is finished, they will follow this line and run all the way to this destination here. That's a good way of, like, you know, managing your units and gathering them. What I didn't know is that you can actually shift queue rallies. So let's say there's a dangerous path. Let's say this is a group of, you know, towers or enemies or a keep. And you want to get round to, like, the workers, villagers at the back of your enemy's base. What you can do is you can actually right click and then shift click like this, and then go this way and then that way and then that way. Look at that. Just like you would with a normal move. If you already knew that, you're probably thinking obviously, but genuinely that is actually quite rare, like for other games. So I did not know that coming into this. So yeah, that's number 5 if I'm counting correctly. Okay, so number 6. But very quickly, before I go to 6, I just want to make one clarification point around food gather rates, and the thing to bear in mind to do with collection. It's just a little bonus tip, is that this is one of the reasons why you want things to be as close as possible to where you're collecting from, because this can make a difference to the gather rate as well, the travel distance. So you, as close to the town center as you can have your sheep. There you go. You see that? They start moving closer, and this is why a lot of people right at the start of the game, they actually move their sheep like under the town center before they start gathering, because your workers don't even have to take a step. Then you have that true gather rate that I told you about with the numbers and stuff. Anyway, apologies for the intermission there. Back to number 6. You can dodge these shots. You probably already knew this. You can dodge the shots of mangonels and such, but here's the thing. So they have this little radius of where they're going to fire. I want to show you how it works, basically. The mangonel is tracking the movement of your guys. So let's say I'm running towards it like this. So let's say I have this, right? You see this line, like, let's do it like that so you can see you can actually see the trajectory. The mangonel knows the trajectory your guys are moving on at time of firing. Like, obviously I'm attacking ground because it's my own troops. But, oh wow, look at the action music, even though there was no friendly fire. I didn't know that. Anyway, So with that in mind, you can actually dodge, because if you see your mangonels about to shoot, like you can see the animation, you know it knows your direction. So if you just sort of change direction, then you can actually dodge. And of course, scatter formation or staggered formation does kind of help as well with the splash damage and stuff. Just something to bear in mind. Obviously, disclaimer: they're patching all these siege engines very, very soon. In fact, by the time this video comes out, the patch might have dropped. But it's still going to be the same dodging mechanic, right? It's just going to be even easier to dodge, from what I hear, from what I see from the patch notes. So just bear that in mind. Like, if you're charging at these things and you're just running in a, let's say we come from all the way back here, and if you're just running in a straight line towards them, like, it knows your line and it's going to aim to hit you where you're moving in that moment. That's why you need to sort of, if you can, as you're moving towards it, you want to do something more like this. So you see it's about to shoot, you're like, oh shit, you move back. Obviously you still take some hits, but you take way less. So that's it, that's number 6. And number 7, and the final one, is actually, it's a little bit of a cheeky one, because it's not exactly a mechanic, but it's just, we're talking a lot about resources in this video, and I just wanted to like add this idea that in this game you have food, wood, gold, and stone, right? Of course, if you're, if you're Byzantines, you have oil, whatever, and maybe future civs will have unique stuff. But there's always one resource in RTS games, including this one, that is not actually written here, and that's time. Time and attention. Your time and attention is limited, and the players who can utilize that resource the best are the ones that typically come out on top. I'm no pro, but I'm pretty sure they'd agree with me even for saying at least something along those lines. So the point I'm trying to make here is that while we're putting in a lot of effort into having a very pretty, efficient farms and stuff, especially in the early game, let's say you want to do that really if it's you're playing English, so you got the mill bonus with your farms, and you want to do that sort of pretty, instead of doing it like that, you do, fuck, I can't fit it, but you know what I mean. You can put 4 farms instead of 3, like that, and then they all fit within the bonus zone of the mill. This is great. This is better efficiency, you might think, in terms of like better food efficiency and whatnot, and gather rates, etc. The problem is that in the early game you have time. In later on, when you're getting those pings everywhere, your scouts are shouting, there's people, horses raiding your woodworkers at the same time as your frontline fight. You're trying to harass. You've got some traders on the move, whatever, this kind of stuff. You don't really have time to be doing it so what's it called, so precisely, to make the most of the game's natural features. For example, if you didn't know this, perhaps this is a bonus tip, you don't have to do it like that, right? You don't have to do it like this. You can just hit it on the building and the game will put it as close to it as it possibly can. That's so much faster. You actually save so much time, and then your attention can snap back to the fight that's taken place, and maybe you can dodge that mangonel shot and so on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll catch you in the next one, where I'm going to talk about more thinking, more mindset changes that have helped me. That will be the next video in this series. I do casting and such. I do live streams. If you like what I do, it really helps to drop a like and consider subscribing, because AoE content is going to continue. Love you guys. Bye-bye.